Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of Armed Forces and Minister of National Defense, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has handed over the Military Football Cup trophy to the captain of the 1st Military Region team at the end of the final match won against its counterpart from the 4th Military Region. Algeria has called at the joint meeting of the UN Security Council's committees in charge of the fight against terrorism and non-proliferation for an overhaul of the current international system for combating terrorism. And the Palestinian people celebrate today the 36th anniversary of the proclamation of the State of Palestine from Algerian Seoul in a context marked by the continuing Zionist occupation exacerbated by the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail from Radio Algeria International. The President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces and Minister of National Defense, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has handed over the Military Football Cup trophy to the captain of the 1st Military Region team, Issam Ben Issa, or Imad Ben Issa, at the end of the final match won against its counterpart from the 4th Military Region by a score of 2-1, played on Thursday at the Center for Gripping and Preparing Military Sports Teams in Ben Aknoun here in Algiers. Algeria has called at a joint meeting of the UN Security Council's committees in charge of fighting terrorism and non-proliferation for an overhaul of the current international system for combating terrorism. Majid Mila has more details in this report.
The meeting, held in a Thursday plenary session, was devoted to presentations by the chairman of the three main committees in charge of counter-terrorism and non-proliferation: the 1267 Committee concerning Daesh and Al-Qaeda, the 1373 Counter-Terrorism Committee, CDC, chaired by Algeria, and the 1540 Committee on Non-Proliferation, chaired by the United Kingdom. This meeting was of particular importance in a context marked by the expansion of terrorist groups in Africa, the growing threats in Afghanistan, and the increasing use of new technologies for terrorist purposes. The presentations made by the three presidents painted a worrying picture of the threats underlying the urgent need for more coordinated and effective international action. In his capacity as chairman of the 1373 Counter-Terrorism Committee, CDC, Ambassador Ammar Benjama presented an in-depth review of the committee's activities, highlighting the threat of terrorist groups and their modus operandi.
We see terrorist groups continuously adapting to our counter-terrorism measures and efforts. With the support of CTED, the committee has continued to engage with member states, United Nations entities, international and regional organizations, academia, and civil society organizations in order to assist member states in addressing those threats and challenges in accordance with the relevant Council resolution on terrorism.
Mr. Benjama also recalled the necessity for member states to implement the recommendations of the committee, notably with regard to human rights.
The committee highlights the importance of member states' implementation of the committee's recommendation for its assessment, including those related to human rights. The committee has continued to strengthen its engagement with parliamentarians, civil society organizations, the private sector, and academia within the framework of its various activities and events.
Drawing on its national experience, Algeria has reaffirmed its willingness to share its expertise with all partners, sharing its vision of a world free of terrorism. Algeria will continue to work both as chair of the CDC and as a member of the Security Council for a world free of terrorism, to ensure that the fight against terrorism is more effective and better coordinated, in keeping with its conviction that the future is not something that happens to us, but something that we can shape.
And the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, has chaired here in Algiers, along with Ambassador of the Republic of Nicaragua to Algiers, Carlos Eduardo Diaz Moreira, the inauguration ceremony of the Nicaraguan Embassy to Algiers. In his speech delivered during the ceremony, Mr. Attaf said that the opening of the Nicaraguan embassy comes just a few months after the official opening of the Algerian embassy in Managua, adding that this diplomatic achievement is part of a very positive dynamic, marking the ties of brotherhood, solidarity and cooperation between Algeria and Nicaragua.
We also celebrate 43 years of diplomatic relations between our two nations. 43 years of active solidarity, fruitful cooperation, and purposeful coordination between Algeria and Nicaragua in various regional and international fora. And 43 years of standing together in support of the rightful causes around the world, in support of the South-South cooperation, including between Africa and Latin America, in support of global South aspirations, both within the group of G77 plus China and the non-aligned movement. And last but not least, in support of a new international order based on equity, justice, and inclusivity.
And the Nicaraguan ambassador to Algiers, for his part, recalled that relations between Algeria and Nicaragua are based on solidarity in the struggle against colonialism and imperialism, as well as on strong support for the Sahrawi people and the valiant Palestinian people who are suffering from a genocide perpetrated by the Zionist entity. And the non-governmental organization Médecins Sans Frontières has said that the Zionist occupation authorities have blocked without explanation the medical evacuation of 8 children and their carriers from Gaza to Jordan. In a statement published on social networks, MSF explained that these children, including a 2-year-old whose legs had been amputated, needed medical care. And a medical team made up of Algerian doctors and nurses has arrived in Gaza as part of Algeria's solidarity efforts with the Strip, subjected to an all-out genocidal war for over a year now. Participants in a conference held yesterday in Algiers said that the proclamation of the State of Palestine in Algeria had marked a decisive stage in consolidating Algeria's constant efforts on behalf of the Palestinian people and their just cause, while also providing the political framework for successive agreements and recognitions of the State of Palestine. Organized by Radio Algeria International and the Faculty of Political Science and International Relations, the conference was held at the Isam Saudi Cultural Club at the headquarters of the Algerian Radio under the theme Algeria and Palestine, Decades of Support and Loyalty to the Oath, as part of the commemoration of the 36th anniversary of the proclamation of the State of Palestine in Algeria and the 20th anniversary of the death of Palestinian President Yasser Arafat. And the Palestinian people celebrate today the 36th anniversary of the proclamation of the State of Palestine from Algerian soil in a context marked by the continuing Zionist occupation exacerbated by the ongoing genocide in Gaza at a time when the Palestinian cause remains strongly supported by peace-loving countries, including Algeria, which to this day continues to fervently defend this central issue. On 15 November 1988, at the Palace of Nations in Algiers, the late leader Yasser Arafat proclaimed the creation of the State of Palestine in his famous speech to the National Council of the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO. You will listen to a special program on the occasion at the end of our news bulletin. And the outgoing European Union High Representative for Foreign Affairs, Josep Borrell, is expected to present a proposal on Monday to formally suspend political dialogue with the Zionist entity over human rights violations in Gaza, reports the Euractiv website. According to the website, Josep Borrell's proposal was debated for the first time at a meeting of EU ambassadors on Wednesday and is due to be formally discussed at the meeting of EU foreign affairs ministers in Brussels on Monday, November 18. The information website Middle East Monitor has deplored the demolition of Bedouin homes in the Nakab Desert by the Zionist occupation authorities, which has seen a staggering increase by 400% in 2024. According to the website, during a meeting of a committee in charge of Bedouin community affairs, the Zionist authority revealed significant increase in the implementation of demolition orders in unrecognized villages in the Naqab Desert. And the municipality of Gaza has revealed that more than 105,000 water pipes and more than 70% of wells have been destroyed by the Zionist occupation army in its ongoing genocidal war against the besieged Palestinian population in the Gaza Strip. Saad Bouazi has more details.
The spokesman for the municipality of Gaza, Assam Al-Nabih, said that the municipality's limited capacities are hampering its efforts to resolve the acute water crisis, forcing some citizens to carry water to their homes by hand, while others have been forced to leave their homes because of the distance from the water points. He pointed out that the price of desalinated water had risen significantly due to the rise in fuel prices, which is exacerbating the situation and worsening the citizens' suffering in terms of access to drinking water. On 23rd October last year, 2 employees of the municipality of Gaza were killed and 2 others injured by Zionist bombardments while they were repairing water wells at the Bir al-Safa station in the Et-Tufah neighborhood east of the Gaza Strip. Since the start of the genocidal war in October 2023, the Zionist occupation army has been working to destroy every aspect of life in the Gaza Strip.
And in Lebanon, 12 people, including 8 rescue workers, have been killed in a Zionist occupation raid on a Lebanese civil defense center in Doris, near the town of Baalbek, in eastern Lebanon, noting that human remains have been found at the site, according to the Lebanese Health Ministry. And participants in a conference on Western Sahara, the last colony in Africa, held in Algiers, have called for the implementation of international legal decisions recognizing the Sahrawi people's right to freedom and independence through the organization of a referendum on self-determination. Speaking at this meeting organized on Wednesday at Espace Afrique as part of the cultural program of the 27th edition of the International Book Fair of Algiers, SILA, the deputy representative of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic to Ethiopia and the African Union, Lekhal Ma'al-Ainin, underlined that the question of Western Sahara was one of the central issues of the international system as the last decolonization issue in Africa. With this, we come to the end of this news bulletin for today. Time now for a weekly program, starting with a special program devoted to the 36th anniversary of the proclamation of the State of Palestine from Algeria or Algiers, followed by another program by my colleague Mohammed Barzwan. With this, we come to the end of it. We'll meet again tomorrow for a fresh edition of our news bulletin in English. Until then, stay tuned to Radio Algeria International, and bye-bye for now.
Hello, dear listeners, and welcome on the waves of Radio Algeria International. Today, November 15th, we commemorate the Palestinian Declaration of Independence that was announced here in Algiers in 1988. Today represents a great hope for Palestinians in establishing their independent state as provided for by international law within the 1967 borders. It is a national day on which official and people's institutions do not work in Palestine, and the Palestinian flag is raised over the buildings of the government, political parties, and houses. It is a celebration that, unfortunately, Palestinians are prevented from commemorating happily this year, as Gaza is under an intensive and relentless attack that can't but be defined as ethnic cleansing. However, their daily suffering due to the Israeli occupation didn't but give them more will and determination to achieve the right to an independent state with Al-Quds as capital.
أنا عربي ولون الشعر فحمي ولون العين بني وميزاتي على رأسي عقال فوق كوفية.
On November 15, 1988, the 19th session of the Palestinian National Council, or Parliament of the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, was held here in Algiers a year after the First Intifada, or the Stone Uprising. During this session, late Palestinian President Yasser Arafat, who was then president of the Palestine Liberation Organization PLO, delivered his famous speech proclaiming the Palestinian Declaration of Independence, saying, "The National Council announces, in the name of God and in the name of the Arab Palestinian people, the establishment of the State of Palestine on our Palestinian land and its capital, Al-Quds al-Sharif."
فإن المجلس الوطني يعلن باسم الله وباسم الشعب العربي الفلسطيني قيام دولة فلسطين فوق أرضنا الفلسطينية وعاصمتها القدس الشريف.
The Palestinian Declaration of Independence was written by late poet Mahmoud Darwish, conveying many meanings and recalling the heroism of the Palestinian people and their aspiration for freedom. It also conveyed a Palestinian peace message addressed to the world, insisting that Palestinians want to live in peace and security on the historic land of Palestine. The Declaration of Independence also approved the commitment of Palestinians to the principles of the United Nations and its goals, to the World Human Rights Declaration, and to the principles of non-alignment and its policy. The Declaration of Independence emphasized that the State of Palestine is an Arab state, which is part and parcel of the Arab nation, with its heritage and civilization, and aims to achieve its goals of liberation, development, democracy, and unity. The Declaration of the State of Palestine and its independence document and its commitments led to an immediate recognition of the State of Palestine by many friendly countries. They recognized the Palestinian state as announced in the Independence Declaration and welcomed on their soil Palestinian embassies and representations. About 110 countries recognize the right of Palestinians to an independent state with Al-Quds as capital. The number of countries that recognize the State of Palestine has reached 141 countries. Palestinian diplomatic efforts culminated on November 29, 2012 in the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 6719. This resolution upgraded Palestine to non-member observer state status in the United Nations General Assembly. The Palestinian Declaration of Independence in 1988 paved the way for global recognition of the Palestinian state and its capital Al-Quds, revealing that Palestinian national unity is the shortest way towards facing up to the occupation. And the 15th of November is also an opportunity to remember and pay tribute to former Palestinian President Yasser Arafat for his efforts to make the Palestinian cause heard and recognized internationally. Despite all the challenges and circumstances surrounding the Palestinian cause, Palestinians pursue their efforts to obtain international recognition of the Palestinian state. And in September 2015, the United Nations General Assembly approved the vote of the majority of its members, raising the flag of Palestine at the headquarters of the organization in New York for the first time, along with the flags of the rest of the 193 UN members. The State of Palestine also obtained the membership of United Nations institutions and joined international treaties and organizations, including the International Criminal Court in 2014. The ongoing Israeli aggression on Palestinians in Gaza, though barbaric, painful, unfair and inhuman, it has revealed the double standard policy of many countries who used to condemn occupation and violence, but currently they are watching in inaction the Israeli occupation committing the most hideous crimes that do not spare anybody, not even a fetus in his mother's womb. This year, the celebration of the anniversary of the Palestinian Declaration of Independence comes amid the world's awakening to the real atrocities committed against Palestinians, a fact that has always been distorted by the Western media. But this year it was revealed, and all those who died in the current Israeli aggression are alive in the eyes of humanity and are strengthening the right of Palestinians to freedom, dignity, and peace. And by committing such massacres, the Israeli occupation is feeding Palestinians more determination to defeat the occupation and gain sovereignty over their lands. And as it was said by Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish in his poem about a human, "O you, with bloodshot eyes and bloody hands, the night is short-lived. The detention room does not last forever, nor do the chains. Nero died, but Rome did not. With her eyes she fights, and the seeds of a dead wheatear with wheat shall fill the valley."
Nakba is the Arab word for catastrophe, calamity. The Nakba refers to the uprooting, expulsion and dispossession of 770,000 Palestinians from their homeland in historic Palestine during the period of 1947-1949. This criminal action was officially culminated by the declaration of the so-called State of Israel on March 15, 1948. The Nakba was the result of a deliberate policy of mass expulsion and ethnic cleansing aided by colonial powers, particularly the British Mandate and various Zionist organizations in Europe, including the 117-year-old international organization, the Jewish National Fund, JNF. The British Nakba, in the words of a leading British Arabist, is a story of enduring, continuing loss and dispossession tragedy that has continued for 70 years, and one wonders how much longer it will last. Still, even in 2018, Palestinians lose land, homes and resources, as well as lives, to an ever-expanding Israeli occupation. Over a century ago, early Zionist organizations in Europe and in Palestine actively began preparing the ground to declare the birth of the State of Israel. In the 1920s, the NGF was the leading European Jewish political movement established to infuse the religion of Judaism with the nationalistic ideology. It coined the phrase "a land without a people for a people without a land," deliberately denying the very existence of the indigenous population of Palestine. After World War I, the victorious Imperial Britain emerged and took control in Palestine. In 1917, its then Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour conveniently ignored the existence of Palestinians that constituted more than 90% of the population at the time.
لأجلك يا مدينة الصلاة أصلي لأجلك يا بهية المساكن يا زهرة المدائن يا قدس يا قدس
A hideous strategy was collectively in the making to kick out Palestinians who had lived on the land for generations and ensure that it would be barred from ever returning to Palestine. This was in order to make way for massive immigration of Jews from Europe, Russia, and the Arab world into Palestine. At least 11 well-trained Jewish terrorist or underground organizations were indiscriminately carrying out military campaigns to spread fear and chase Palestinians away from their homes and villages in the years leading up to 1948. They committed hundreds of odious massacres against civilians in almost 200 villages over many years unhindered. The massacre that stands out in the nation's memory is Dar Yassin, a Palestinian Arab village of roughly 400 people near Jerusalem. In 1947, the population numbered 900,000 Palestinians and 600,000 Jews. In 1949, the number of Palestinians fell to 150,000 and the Jews rose to 1 million. These numbers demonstrate how Israel, by 1949, had forcibly expelled 750,000 Palestinians and totally razed nearly 500 Palestinian villages within 2 years. These figures are well documented by the UN Refugees and Works Agency in the Near East, UNRWA, that was founded in December 1949. The Palestinian refugees' right of return has been enshrined in United Nations resolution, which has been ignored by Israel and the U.S. However, with Israel's powerful and well-funded army, the Palestinians have little to fight back with except the moral high ground which has been reflected in numerous UN resolutions supporting their inalienable rights and castigating the repeated Israeli violations of international law. The United States Israel chief backer has been accused of being a biased broker for a fair and just solution, which is evident in the billions of dollars in aid it gives Israel annually. As a result, on the ground, the policy of might is right has been implemented by Israel with its continued usurpation of Palestinian lands. It seems very unlikely, given the current power balance, that Palestinians will be given a fair and just solution. However, this has not killed the dream of countless Palestinians to return to their land. Despite all the wanton lies and lingering deception, the fact that the Palestinian people have survived indigenously about 22% of Israel's population and in diaspora is a living testimony to their staunch determination to regain their human rights, including their legitimate right to freedom and self-determination in their historic homeland, Palestine.
حييك يا شعب الوطن يا مقاوم الاحتلال حي فيك البسالي والكفاح والعين سهراني بعيون الجنود أطفالنا رشوا الرمال يا بلادي العودة قريبي والانتفاضة شعار